Hello everyone, Spectre here, back in with our Marvel content chain video, and today I'm going over the top 10 worst buffs in MCOC history. So last time I did a top 10 list of the best buffs in MCOC history, and yeah, there have been a ton of good buffs. Honestly, most buffs have been pretty good to like decent, and then you got a bunch of buffs that have been like absolute top tier. But there have been some stinkers. And honestly, I wasn't able to find that many stinkers, although I was able to find enough to make like a top, worst 10, or I wouldn't say top 10 list, more like a bottom 10 list. But yeah, there's still been a couple of bad buffs, and yeah, I mean, starting off, we actually got a champion who's not that bad, but I'll tell you why he is one of the worst buffs in MCOC history. And that champion is in the Cosmic class, and it's Venom. Venom, I really like this guy. I mean, off the rip, he just looks super cool, and he's not that bad of a character overall. He has some nice bleeds damage. He has a lot of buffs. He's got a good, nice power gain. He's a bit of a ramp up champion, and he's got nullify off the special 1. So overall, he's pretty solid, and in the video you can see as I'm talking, you could see that like he doesn't look that bad of a character. So the reason I would consider him to be one of the worst buffs in the game is simply because Venom exists. Venom is just Venom, but like 10 times better. Anything Venom can do, Venom can do, and it's better. So why would you play an inferior Venom? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got stronger bleeds, he has more damage output. Venom is a ramp up champion, and when he's fully ramped up, Venom's still doing things better. So Venom actually has like less of a ramp up. He has more damage output. Like I said, stronger bleeds. He has the nullify off the special 1, and it gives him health. Like, he's pretty nice. And then he has the added bonus of just turning off Spider-Verse champion evades. Venom is just such a really good character, and it just completely dwarfs Venom. So for that reason, that's why I would consider Venom one of the worst buffs in the game. He's still a fine champion, but he's just a worse Venom. Our number 9 is in the skill class, and honestly, this character is probably higher up than most people would put him. He's one of the most forgettable champions in the game, and that's Carnage. So I actually don't think his buff was horrible. It's still pretty bad, and definitely when he came out, people were still saying it was very bad. So think about what it's like in today's standard. But like, he has okay damage output. With the special 2 Furies, you could stack those up a couple times. And then once you get like enough Furies, you're hitting decently hard. I mean, with the gameplay you're seeing, this is only a level 1, rank 1, 6-star. So yeah, I don't really have any of these bad champions ranked up, because they're bad. But yeah, I mean, Carnage, he can hit decently hard. He has nice utility with reducing poison potency. He can reduce the duration of non-damaging debuffs on him, which is pretty nice. And he's got a True Strike off the special 1, which True Strike is pretty darn good. The problem is that you kind of are choosing either damage or utility, because you got your damage tied to your special 2 and your utility tied to your special 1. And the damage you get from choosing damage is not that great in itself. And then if you're just going off of special 1s to get that True Strike, yeah, you're not hitting hard whatsoever. So it's like you gotta choose what you want, and then no matter what you choose, you still kind of suck. So yeah, I think Carnage definitely got one of the worst buffs in the game. But I mean, True Strike is just such a strong ability that it just being tied to special 1 definitely kept him higher in this list than I think most people would put him. And yeah, so that's Carnage, one of the most forgettable champions in the game, if not the most forgettable champion in the game. Do you remember, to rank this guy up, you needed both Cosmic and Skill Catalyst? Is that still true? Please tell me that's not still true. Oh my god, it is. Yeah, you need Cosmic and Skill Catalyst to rank this guy up. That's actually insane. They really need to fix that change. Like, they really need to fix that. Alright, and now we got the 8th worst buff. And it's in the Mystic class. Very, very bad champion. We got Guillotine. So, Guillotine actually used to be a pretty solid character. I actually preferred her pre-buff, because post-buff, she just kind of feels so bad to play. It's a lot of parrying, a lot of just heavy attacking, and the special, because how she works now is you mainly just want to go for your bleed curses, which you just put on the opponent with your heavy attack. And then for each bleed curse on the opponent, your special attacks put on a bleed on each hit of the special attack corresponding with the bleed curse. So if you have 3 bleed curses on the opponent, each hit of the special attack puts on 3 bleeds, and it could go up to 7. But you're probably never going to get to 7 because they don't really last that long. The most you can get is probably like 4 or 5, and that's just if you like punishing in the corner into like a special 2 or a special 1. And yeah, I've never seen anyone like get like to 6 or 7 before. I don't know if that's possible. I mean, it's gotta be possible since it's like it has a limit. I don't know if it like goes up with like deep wounds, but I mean, Guillotine is definitely someone you want to run with deep wounds. But there are just so many better bleed characters than Guillotine. Like, why would you really want to use Guillotine? She doesn't really do a whole lot. She's more annoying on defense now because of her pain link, which that sucks. And I mean, like, just Deathless Guillotine is just way better Guillotine. It's basically pre-buff Guillotine, except instead of doing bleed damage, she's doing degen damage. So the Deathless Guillotine is actually much better than pre-buff Guillotine, and I would say Guillotine post-buff, I don't like her more than pre-buff Guillotine. So, I mean, if your buff version is worse than the pre-buff version, then you definitely messed up. And I could definitely see Guillotine being a lot lower, maybe towards like the bottom 3 on most people's worst buffs list. But like, I feel like if you are running deep, like maxed out deep wounds, Guillotine's not that bad of a character. I just personally don't really like her playstyle. She doesn't really have a super high damage output, even with deep wounds. Like, she's just pretty mid to really bad champion. And yeah, I mean, the community is just so divided on this character, you know, versus pre-buff and post-buff. And yeah, I think Guillotine definitely deserves a spot on the top 10 worst buffs. Alright, staying in the Mystic class, where is this character? We got Thor Jane Foster. So, Thor Jane Foster is number 7. And really the only thing they did was just kind of update her player model, and then they put her Awakened ability into her base kit, and then they gave her a new Awakened ability, and then she has like 2 staggers on her heavy attack now. And yeah, I mean, she never really did anything pre-buff. Like, she was always kind of like a really meh champion, and they kind of just like boosted her a little bit, and she has like some stun lock potential and some guaranteed crits, but it's still not really doing too much. She doesn't really have any kind of utility whatsoever. She has nice buff control with like being able to stack on staggers, but I mean, outside of that, her damage isn't good, even with guaranteed crits and the stun lock. She's just like okay now. It definitely didn't help her, and she's probably still just kind of a mid-champion overall. And I mean, I wouldn't really say the buff did anything. Like I said, the buffs was kind of minimal. So yeah, it's definitely one of the worst buffs because of how small it was. Alright, going into the Mutant class, which, if you saw the top 10 best buffs, the Mutant class has a ton. Like, they probably took up like almost half of the top 10 best buff list. So the Mutant class, in terms of buffs, have been amazing. But there is one outlier that definitely ruins the Mutants' good name in terms of buffs, and that's Gambit. So Gambit, after the buffs, was, you know, I never really like heard anyone be like, oh my god, Gambit's crazy now. Like, even at that time when he got buffed, he was still kind of seen as mid. All he really got was like the potential to unleash massive special 2s, which if you look at the gameplay here that I'm showing you, honestly it might have ended by the time I started talking, because yeah, the fight was over pretty fast. You could see that Gambit was able to unleash massive special twos, and I'll be honest, I just got lucky because Gambit's his crit rate is not that great. And honestly, the thing that puts him higher on this list is the fact that he's a 7-star, and you could just stat focus and give him precision so that he can get higher crit rate, so you get a higher chance at massive special 2s. And he also has nice bleed resistance as well, and he has a lot of stun potential. But I mean, outside that, his utility is not that great, and his damage output is completely RNG based, whether or not you get a crit or not. And I feel like there are just so many other characters in the mutant class specifically that just have a lot more consistent damage output than Gambit, plus like 3 times the utility. Alright, after Gambit, we go to the tech class. And once again, I don't have this champion ranked up because, yeah, they're kind of bad. And yeah, that person is Vulture. So, Vulture, he's probably one of the coolest looking characters in the game. I really loved him in the Spider-Man Homecoming movie. And I actually kind of like Vulture. I wouldn't say he's like, you know, one of the worst champions in the game. Like, definitely when I play him in Arena, you know, he does fine. I think his power drain is, you know, decent. But the problem is his, like, how he functions with his Chitauri energy. So he just has so many things in his kit, and all of them require the Chitauri energy. And that could be fine, but the way you get Chitauri energy is by critting the opponent. And Vulture's crit rating is pretty low. And also the cost of some of his abilities for Chitauri energy is just so incredibly high. Also, all of his things in his kit kind of don't flow together. You know, like, you have all these things that require Chitauri energy, which you're already not getting a lot of, and then at the same time, none of your abilities are kind of flowing to each other. Like, you have Raptor Strike, which require you to dash back and then immediately dash into the opponent, and that takes I think it's 40 Chitauri energy, so that's almost and you can only have like 100 Chitauri energy, so that's almost half of your Chitauri energy gone just like that. You also have heavy attacks, which put on armor breaks, and the armor breaks don't last that long, and you stack up to 5. And without the armor breaks, you have like almost no damage, and even with the armor breaks, they're not that potent, so it's not like the biggest damage increase either. And yeah, they just fall off so quickly, and to put on an armor break, it costs 25 Chitauri energy, and also Dexing also consumes 10 Chitauri energy to put on Incinerate on the opponent. And so you just got all these things that are taking Chitauri energy that don't flow into each other at all, and it's just making Vulture like have all these things that are very underwhelming. They're just not really helping each other. And yeah, he's just all around just a very mid character who doesn't do a whole lot. And yeah, he has basically no utility. Okay, we're now visiting the science class, which is probably one of the best class. Honestly, I would say consider the science class the best class in the game. But just because it's the best class in the game does not mean it's not home to some stinkers. And I can already see the stinker right now, and that is Yellow Jacket. So, Yellow Jacket definitely has one of the worst buffs in the game. When they buffed him, they didn't really change his damage output at all. They kind of gave him just like some utility of like some energy resistance, I think some physical resistance. He's got a Petrify on the special 2, and that was pretty much it. He doesn't really do anything outside of just like power sting damage, and it's like, what science champion can't just do like either doesn't have access to Petrify or a ton of debuffs? Because with the Despair Mastery, any champion can reverse healing, or at least stop healing or reduce healing. So there's really no need to use Yellow Jacket if you want like someone to counter healing, because I think that's what he's made to do. He's meant to counter healing, and he's meant to also do power sting. But because the damage output is so little and the utility is basically not there, there's really no reason to use Yellow Jacket. Now, even with like the Ant-Man relic, his damage output with the Power Stings is still not that great. Like, why use Yellow Jacket when you could use someone like Spider-Ham, or you can use Spider-Woman who just came out? There's any character can basically have the damage output of Yellow Jacket plus their own with the Mr. Fantastic synergy. Like, you could literally make any champion Yellow Jacket with this bearded guy right here. Where is he? I don't even think I have him as a 6-star. That's crazy. Yeah, because with this synergy right here, if you don't know it, it's this synergy team right here. It's basically whenever the opponent applies a debuff on the opponent, they also get inflicted with an indefinite Power Sting, dealing direct damage equal to 60% of their attack rating. So you could make anyone basically have Yellow Jacket's damage output and more, because Yellow Jacket's damage output is pretty darn low, and it's just, there's no reason to ever use Yellow Jacket. Alright, we now go to the skill class for probably one of the most underwhelming buffs in the game, and that being Daredevil Hell's Kitchen. So, it kind of sucks that both versions of Daredevil in this game aren't great, and I mean, this one probably is the best Daredevil we have, but, you know, he's, as you can see, he's ranking at number 4 on the worst buffs list, so he's still pretty bad. This buff didn't really do anything for him. He probably like moved up a tier from like trash tier to mid tier, and like it was just such a underwhelming buff. Even when he came out, like he still didn't like, people were still being like, yeah, this guy is kind of mid. He kind of sucks. All he's really got is he can shrug off non-damaging debuffs, and also he's got some pretty meh bleeds on the special 2. There's a lot going on with his combo where you want to reduce it, stay within like, I think that like the 30 range. And then you could get like fury buffs, you can get precision and cruelty buffs, which all you don't really feel them. Like I was playing against with a soldier, and I honestly think Daredevil probably had the weakest damage output of all the characters I've was getting gameplay for this video for. And Daredevil was just super underwhelming. I kind of don't want this guy to get buffed again. I would rather the OG get buffed again, or not again, but like just get buffed. You know, you failed one Daredevil, so might as well do justice to the first Daredevil. And I definitely hope they do a better job than this guy if they ever do touch the OG. I kind of just realized I said Daredevil's number 4. He's actually number 3. And we're in the top, we were in the top 3 with Daredevil being the 3rd worst buff in MCOC history. We now go to the tech class, and this is where we're going to be for the next 2. So bottom 2 are both in the tech class, and I definitely think in terms of buffs, the tech class has just been pretty underwhelming overall. We got some really good gems, like we got Sentinel, Shocker, Red Skull. We got like those buffs, which were pretty darn good, but then we got some really bad buffs. And obviously, we're looking at the 2 worst buffs, and if I had to pick the top 2 worst buffs, number 2 would be Yandu. So Yandu, there's a lot in his kit that is just like kind of underwhelming. Even when, again, this is another champion that when they got buffed, even at that time, they were seen as underwhelming. And he just got like a contradiction in his kit, where he's now a ramp-up champion where you want to use a special 2 to get your fury buffs. And to get fury buffs, the opponent has to use special attacks. And like, that's assuming that they're just launching special ones. And so that's literally 12 bars of power that the opponent has to use. Also, what makes that suck, and it makes the ramp up even longer, is that he reduces the combat power rate of his opponent when he puts debuffs on them. So it just makes no sense why they would make a champion who ramps like that to also reduce the opponent's combat power rate. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like with Infamous Iron Man, he actually wants his opponent to have a lot of power, so he can burn more power with his special too. So he could actually give his opponent an energized passive, which gives him a higher combat power rate. Like that, like, could you imagine if Infamous Iron Man, the character who wants your opponent to have a lot of power, had like something, had like a ton of suppressions built into his kit? He just wouldn't be as effective anymore. And that's basically what Yandu is. He wants his opponent to have a high combat power rate, but he punishes combat power rate, so he ramps up slower. And his utility is almost non-existent. He has bleeds off his special, off his some of his light attacks and his special 1 and the first hit of the special 2 with his Yaka arrow. He has a heal block on his special 1, which gets increased duration if the opponent actually has a regeneration on them. And he can also just take away prowess and armor up buffs, but it's not really that impressive. Like, there are plenty of other characters that can just armor break or nullify, and I mean, as long as you're not getting hit, then prowesses aren't really doing a whole lot for mutant champions. Sometimes it bakes into our kit, but there's a lot of other tech champions that can deal with mutant champions way better than Yandu, that don't have contradictories built into their kit. But yeah, Yandu, another very, very underwhelming champion, and yeah, he is getting a buff though. I believe he's getting a buff in August, so hopefully they kind of make him like flow better, and they increase his ramp and his damage output. But like I said, we're staying in the tech class, and there is one champion that is worse than Yandu in terms of buffs, and that being Psycho Man. Now I know what you're thinking. Hold on, Psycho Man got buffed? Yes, it's probably one of the most, if not the most minuscule buffs in all of MCOC, to the point where it did not change people's perception of him at all. Really, all they did was just increase his Fury buff duration, which doesn't do anything, because it's basically his already Psycho Man's damage output is like 0, and his Fury buff was just basically a +1. So 0 + 1 is still just like 1. So there's really no there was really no change to Psycho Man. And so if the buff didn't do anything, then that's gotta be a bad buff. Like, at least with characters like Yandu, he still was able, like, he still was able to, or he is able to do things. Like, he is able to take away powers. He is able to heal block. He is able to build up to 12 Furies. With Psycho Man, it didn't change anything. And so yeah, Psycho Man is still one of the worst tech champions in the game, and he has the worst buff in the game just because of how minuscule it is. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Who do you think got the worst buff in MCOC history? Even if they're not on this list, is there anyone you think should have been on this list? If you're mad about Venom, I'm sorry. I just think he's a worse version of Venom. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and goodbye.